Okay, today we're going to talk about the use of data in sports and more specifically in SailGP, a fascinating sailing competition where technology and data is used really at the leading edge. So I am super excited. I'm here with Warren Jones from SailGP and with Edwin Upson from Oracle. Really good to have you with me. Maybe to give us a little bit of context, Warren, do you want to give us a little overview of SailGP?
Well, yeah, of course. So we're an international sailing competition that has events all over the world. We have 8 competitive nations competing for the SailGP trophy. We started off in 2019 in our first season with Team Australia, held by Tom Slingsby, being the 2019 champion. Unfortunately, for COVID reasons, we cancelled our 2020 season. So this Bermuda race is our first race of the season. We start off in Bermuda, we travel into Italy in Taranto, then go to the UK. Then in Denmark, then Saint-Tropez in France, then into Spain, and then we are in, New Zealand, and then the final then is in San Francisco next year.
Very good. You're actually joining us from Bermuda, which I'm very jealous about. So you're getting ready for the 2020 competition now. Tell me a little bit more about the boats and the race itself, because it's absolutely fascinating.
So these are, we have, as I said earlier on, 8 teams, but all the boats are identical. So it's a one design way of looking at it. So all the boats, all the technology on the boats are exactly the same. So it is pure skill from the athletes on the water. So it's how they interpret the weather, how they interpret the boat, how they can go faster in it. So it's all about the athletes. So it's a level playing field, and we have some incredible sailors, top of their game, competing in SailGP this season.
Very good. So it's a competition enabled by data and insights where people then have to act on those insights, which I think is fascinating. Edwin, do you want to take us through the use of data and the technology on the boats and some of the innovations maybe for this year?
Yeah, sure. I can talk about the pure technology aspect, and then Warren can probably cover some of the more functional components, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like Warren said, 2019, we began this journey with SailGP, and really the first conversation was how do we stream these 30,000 data points or sensors from the boat to an Oracle cloud such that it's consumable in near real-time fashion. That presents a pretty significant technology problem, given that the boats are moving all over the water. We have to define or set up a network to cover all the boats on the race course, and just simply the volume and velocity of the data itself. So first challenge was, putting in place the infrastructure to do that, leveraging, the Oracle core technologies. And then the second thing was, how do we take that information and make it consumable to a variety of different personas? I think we started first with, a spectator, through the SailGP app. Making sure that this information is readily available for them. They can toggle between different boats, they can look at different views, they can actually understand better what's happening on the course itself, which is a bit challenging if you've watched one of these races from the shore. So I think we did, and the team, the collective team, this was a joint effort, of course, with SailGP and a number of their partners, did a really fantastic job kind of building that foundation in a relatively short period of time. Like Warren said, the boats are all identical. Another kind of design point was that the data is ubiquitous, meaning that each of the teams and their own data scientists can look at the data and after the fact and make adjustments relative to how a certain team performed across the course as well. So there's a very interesting set of activities that occurs between races with very minor adjustments, given the access that everyone has to these growing data sets. And this is what we were just talking about before. I think Warren said a couple 100 billion records now are sitting in an Oracle Autonomous Data Warehouse, and we expect that to, that's clearly going to get into the trillions here soon. So how are we going to process those large data sets in a really, really short period of time? So for us on the Oracle side, it's a fantastic way to showcase a pretty sophisticated IoT, architecture that has, pretty demanding, SLAs around it as well. So very, very exciting to continue the journey into season 2 with these guys.
Yeah, I love it. So in comparing the 2019 season then and the 2021 season that is just about to start, what is different in terms of technology? What has been upgraded? What has been advanced in that space?
Yeah, so I think there's three things we would point out, and I'll just give the high level tech, and then Warren can talk about how functionally it's helping the teams, the athletes, and all the personas that are out there. The first was we implemented what we call Fast Connect, a redundant Fast Connect from each of the locations to our cloud, so we can stream at a faster rate and with more bandwidth, data, because obviously they're putting more sensors and looking for more data points on the boats. So that was sort of an infrastructure change that was different than last year. Secondarily, we changed some of the integration patterns that we were using from what I would consider more traditional to uptaking what's our stream analytics products, which then allows us to inject AI and ML, and more can talk about functionally what they're looking at in those data streams at the same time. And then the third, because we did have a little bit of a hiatus, we were able to build a foundation of a VPP or a simulator that we expect to really innovate on over the course of the next year. So the foundation is built, people can start leveraging sort of the static data today, but really the goal with that simulator is to have a physical simulator where someone can actually be operating in a model outside of the event itself. And this kind of covers a couple different things. One, very expensive, Warren, I believe, to put the boats in the water. A big engineering challenge every time they do it. It's also, creates inherently some safety issues as well. So all of those are obfuscated with these simulators, which we hope to get out within a year. And then I know one thing that's really important to SailGP is inclusion, and this allows us to cast a wider net and identify perhaps the next athletes that are out there that are leveraging a simulator that maybe don't have access to an F50. So I think if you were to ask Russell, he'd say this is a great way to find a 12-year-old young female that's ambitious in this space and see maybe she's going to be a winner in 5 or 10 years. So those are the three kind of core innovations I think that we're working on, and Warren can probably provide a lot more color and detail about what it meant to the actual sport itself.
Very good. So Warren, what does it mean for the sport? How are the boats using the technology? What does it mean to engage the audience? There are lots of different innovations in there, I guess.
Yeah, but yeah, I echo everything Edwin said, and it's we were quite with the downturn in COVID, where we went back and we looked at, we had all this information of what we did in 2019, and on the top of that then moved that forward then to where we want to be. So the Oracle Fast Connect is something that's it's pretty amazing actually, that an F50 is out on the water in Bermuda, and it's directly connected by a high availability, low latency link in London, UK, 4,000 miles away. I think it's about 60 milliseconds to these from boat to database, which is just amazing, absolutely amazing. So to have that low latency information and then pushing that information through the Oracle developer stack or the application stack, where we can get AI, ML, all this information pushed through is pretty incredible. And to be honest, I don't think we've touched really, this has not been done before in a sporting environment. So for us to start off doing this in the season now, I know for the fact that we'll be where we are at the end of the season will be completely different. It's the ability to change data, to get data fast, the ability to move data to different people around the world as quickly as possible. It's pretty amazing.
Very good. So how do the crews use data, for example, to help them?
So at the moment we use it in pre and post. So they have the coach has access to the live data on the water, but we at the moment we're not giving the crews information on the water. This could be a rule change in the future, but at the present they're all out on the water. They can look before and after the race, but they have no guide of what's going on at the moment. But my personal point of view is I think this will change, but that's for SailGP to implement and move this forward.
Yeah, one of the things I loved when I watched the 2019 competition is the ghost boat. So using AI to plot the perfect path of a potentially winning boat, and then what's quite interesting that the winning path quite often is quite close to that ghost boat.
Yeah, it sucks to be a skipper now on the boat because we're second guessing them now with computer AI. So it's a tough job as it is, but the tough job now with the computer trying to beat you every time. That's not great. But yeah, we think that we'll be able to do that with our BPP, with our cloud instance, and we'll be able to predict that. The Jimmy Spittle went to the ley line. They were 5 meters before the ley line, and he should have gone directly to the ley line and then straight down. That would be the optimum way. So yeah, we think that there's opportunities for data in real time on the boat. But as it is now, we have the coaches sat there watching or following the boats in real time and looking at that data, and they're not just looking at the team's data, they're looking at their competitors' data as well, because we're an open data project. All the data is not segmented between all the teams. Every team can look at that each other's data, and it's pretty interesting how people can look at teams doing well and then look at that and say, okay, then this is how we should be sailing the boat. This is a template of where we should be, and using that data then to push themselves forward within the racing.
I think one of the things that's interesting also along those lines is, how it impacts the broadcasters too, right, Warren? Because, think about Formula One, they show the optimal path through a turn. I believe that we're going to be able to surface, a similar graphic at some point here in the near future to make it, a little bit more real for the spectators. This is what, a certain boat should have done as well. I know that was a priority for the team.
Yeah, we've got so much data available to us, and it's how we interpret that data. And one of the things that attack is there's about 30 to 50 different sensors available within that tack. And how do you rank a tack? How do you say that was a good, that was bad? And now we, with AI, we'll be able to give you a quantified number to say, well, that's a 6 out of 10, or that's a 10 out of 10. You're never going to get better than that. So, we can do that live in real time and give the viewer the ability to say, yeah, that was good, that was bad.
Yeah, I like the idea of overlaying, almost having a bit of augmented reality that shows you the ideal racing line and what boats have actually done in practice, and comparing probably the perfectly AI plotted path to the real path, because I guess wind conditions and everything changes so rapidly. Sometimes the AI might not be right, but it's fascinating to see. And I guess fan engagement is the other thing that the technology enables you to do, that you can now communicate with the boats, I believe, and how does that work?
Well, yeah, we all athletes on the boat are mic'd up, and we have the ability to speak to them. We do a remote production, as well as what we call in remote data centers, remote Oracle data center. We do what we call remote broadcasting, which is that we have 120 people in the London studio, and we send everything back to London. And we produce everything from there. So our communications, we have if our producer Rick Dovey in London wants to speak to Tom Slingsby, then he has to have the ability to do that. So we have communications from London to Bermuda. They can talk to there. We have to be in contact with a helicopter for our shots where the helicopter needs to be. So we have communications everywhere. Anyone can talk to anybody on any continent. It's pretty amazing, actually. And to that point, we have our officiating, our umpires. We have 3 umpires in London officiating over the race course. We also have 1 in New Zealand, and we have 1 in Portugal as well. So these people are watching in low latency video feeds. They have communications to the boats, communications to each other, and they have the ability to. They have all the data as well, and they can make decisions with world sailing rules, and they can make those decisions and actually penalise the boats from Portugal. They can actually press a button and then have a flag or penalise a boat for doing something wrong. Pretty impressive.
Very good. Then taking a look into the future, where do you think this is going in the future? What technology is on your radar that you would like to see in SailGP at some point in the future? Where do you think advancements would be useful, and what do you think are the implications for the wider impact on sports generally and the use of data and technology in sports? Any views on that?
Yeah, I could take that part of that. The amount of data that we're receiving from these boats, so we have 30,000 data points per boat, so 240,000 data points per second when all the fleet is out on the water. We generate around 40 billion data requests to our autonomous data warehouse every sailing session. We are pushing the boundaries as much as we can with what we know, on the boat. So it's just looking through the information of the data now and finding those anomalies of what's good and what's bad. And with the help of Oracle, we've got huge compute power to go out and just stream huge amounts of data and work on that. One of the projects we're working with Oracle is what we call the MSET2 project, which is detection anomaly. So we're sending all the information through Oracle. They're huge, big compute, are looking through the data, and they're giving us. We have thousands and thousands of components on the boat. We have cases for foils. We have winches. We have all these there. So they're giving us the ability now to give us lifespan of these components. So this component will be on the boat, how long it can last for, how long it needs to be changed. So we can keep our inventory up, but we're not just changing something for the sake of changing something. And we can also work out as well when something is not good and we need to change that out, and that gives us the ability then to stop it from breaking when it's in the middle of the race. So our fleet is always top working and have the best ability to do what they need to do. So there's huge amounts of things that we can do with the data, and to be honest, we've just started. So I think we should have a conversation at the end of the season, and we can come back and tell you exactly what we found. It's so much information, and it's how we want to interpret that now to push us forward.
So I think on the Oracle side, I think what this allows us to do is, in a relatively complex and challenging environment, when we think about sort of 3 different data types, right? Structured data, we've done that very, very well for a long period of time. Now we've got this fast data, these IoT devices, and this IoT, sort of sitting on the water, if you will. And then we've got the binary data that Warren talked about too, that we're streaming to the Oracle Cloud. It allows us to kind of have a different conversation with our customers about the art of the possible, leveraging different technologies to, take, sort of a step change in terms of how they operationalize their businesses. And this has applicability across almost every single industry that we can speak to. So it's a great showcase of, pushing the envelope with technology, huge volume, huge velocity, sophisticated analytics on an uneven playing field, right? Which is a big challenge, right? In almost other companies and industries, all those variables are relatively static. And at SailGP, every one of them is changing every second. So it's a pretty good story for us to tell relative to the pure technology story. And then, Warren, we always forget to talk about, it's a large business they're running. You talked about hundreds of people doing remote content production. We've got hundreds of people in Bermuda right now. I mean, the entire back office is similarly, managed by Oracle's NetSuite offering as well. So we have a back office to front office and everything in between type of story that, we like to take to our customers. And we're very, very proud of being a partner of SailGP and the innovations that we've collectively driven.
Very good. Thank you so much for your time today. Edwin Upson from Oracle and Warren Jones from SailGP. Thank you.